When the first Apple Watch was announced, my first response was, who'd want a square watch? And man, was I wrong. In the following years, I proceeded to see classmates and coworkers and bosses and people in boardrooms wearing Apple Watches. And while I totally had expected in the past that it would be just improper to wear something like an Apple Watch to a board meeting, then I actually saw it in person. And so the concept of a square watch being gaudy or weird looking is no longer the case in what seems like the public eye. And so now that leads me to a personal question. If I don't particularly think square watches or circular watches are better, then why would I prefer either one? So I decided to check out this. This is the Oppo Watch. After a couple months of using the Oppo Watch, I think I've gotten used to the feeling of a square smartwatch on my wrist, and I think I've gotten more decisions when it comes to whether I prefer this or a more traditional circular smartwatch. So let's talk about it. This is an OISO, and this is the Oppo Watch review. Let's start with the design. While it's really easy to call the Oppo Watch an Apple Watch clone, I think that's not giving it enough credit. Now, chances are if you're walking down the street and someone sees you with it on your wrist, they'll probably mistake it for an Apple Watch. But that's not a bad thing. I think the Apple Watch feels like a very premium smartwatch, and the Oppo Watch does as well. I actually prefer the design of the Oppo Watch because it's more designed like a Galaxy S7 Edge, where the edges of the screen kind of curve off to the sides, and you've got more flat tops and top and bottom. My Oppo Watch has this navy blue color that really could be mistaken for more of a space gray if you don't look twice, which doesn't blend as much with the black band, but it still looks really good when you look very closely. The standard band is quite comfortable. It's this rubbery silicone material, very similar to the standard Apple Watch sport band, which I find to be quite comfortable in most use, though frankly it doesn't look very formal. If I absolutely wanted to bring this into a nice meeting, which I don't think I would probably go for a more traditional band. Now, of course, you can swap these bands out with others, similarly to the way you do on the Apple Watch, by pushing down the buttons on the back of the watch and sliding out the band itself. You can also add the 22mm adapters, I think they're 22mm, in order to basically put in more traditional watch bands, like leather watch bands or even metal watch bands that you'd get from anywhere, which is nice. It's nice to have that compatibility. Since I'm personally not bringing the Oppo Watch to any meetings, I'm perfectly fine with wearing it in the office during the day or around the house, or of course on runs. Now, the Oppo Watch largely focuses on fitness with similar home screen to the whole rings concept on the Apple Watch, except for this one's an X. I've always actually appreciated the concept of being able to fill up the little bars and achieve a day. But frankly, I found that the actual fitness tracking is not as good as I want it to be. Now, specifically, the feature I'm referring to is the ability to track runs and workouts without actually having to trigger the sensing. And so quite often when I'm just sitting around at home, I'll run and climb up and down the stairs a few times in order to get a little bit of a workout in. But usually what happens is the Oppo Watch doesn't track that. And so I either have to formally ask it to track it or just deal with the fact that I'm not getting credit for the workout that I'm doing. Like many modern smartwatches, the Oppo Watch boasts a relatively good suite of tracking in order to track fitness. So it's got a heart rate sensor, it's got a dedicated GPS, there's an optional LTE if you probably don't live in the US, and frankly, it's good enough for me. In my experience, the Oppo Watch kept within 2 or 3% of the GPS distance that my phone was tracking when I brought them both on a run. So that's within the threshold that I'm comfortable with in order to just bring the Oppo Watch on the run and know that it was tracking my distance well. In addition to that, the heart rate sensing is okay. It notices where my heart rate is higher or lower, but it felt like it was a little bit off from time to time. It was over representing my heart rate at times, but that's not something personally I'm very, very concerned with. Unfortunately, one shortcoming with the Oppo Watch, since it runs Android Wear, it's unable to actually download Spotify playlists locally to the watch. So I have to bring my phone along if I do want to listen to Spotify or podcasts while going on the run. This is one of the things that I absolutely loved about my Galaxy Watch 3, and so I was really disappointed that it wasn't here. Now, frankly, application support on the Oppo Watch and Android Wear in general does feel a little bit more robust than what you'd get on a Galaxy Watch, but it's really not a big difference because frankly, I don't find myself using apps on my smartwatch all that often. My bigger concern is whether I actually have the experience of being able to respond to notifications, read updates, and see like high level information about workouts and stuff like that. And the Oppo Watch is generally good enough for all of that. The software is relatively vanilla with a couple extra applications and a couple customizations to this watch that you wouldn't get with other Android Wear watches, and some custom watch faces. But I don't really need to pick all these super fancy custom watch faces. I'm perfectly fine with downloading them from the Android Wear store. I'm realizing now that I probably called it Android Wear a couple times. I meant Wear OS. They have this application suite that they call, I think, Hey Tap Health, which is a custom Oppo fitness tracking suite. And frankly, I haven't used it all that much other than to just track the little X on the home screen. Frankly, I don't really want to download a whole nother suite of fitness tracking applications onto my phone for just this watch. And so I'd prefer just using something like Google Fit or one of the other many different fitness applications that already exist on the Wear OS store. The Oppo Watch doesn't have a digital crown or a rotating bezel in order to manipulate the screen, but frankly, I didn't find that to be a big deal when I was navigating through it. I did appreciate just being able to swipe on the relatively large 46mm screen, and I didn't find it to be a huge problem, with one exception. I noticed that when I was trying to swipe away notifications down below the home screen, that it really wouldn't recognize every time where I was trying to swipe from the edge, which was just a little bit of a frustration, which made swiping away notifications a little bit worse. But otherwise, this felt like a relatively standard Wear OS experience. Many people have concerns with other Wear OS smartwatches and they find that the performance isn't good enough for them, but frankly, I didn't find any significant performance difficulties while using this. It actually felt significantly faster than several other Wear OS smartwatches that I've used, like the Fossil Sport, but that one might be an exception. Either way, the performance was good enough for me, and I got about 2 to 2.5 days of battery life on this. Now, generally, I would love to be able to get 5 or 6 days of battery life on any smartwatch that I'm wearing, but I've come to realize that that's really not the expectation. I'd love for someone to come out with another smartwatch that got that sort of battery life, but unfortunately, no one seems to be making it right now, as far as I've seen. So now after using the Square watch for a couple of months, how do I feel about it relative to other circular watches? Well, frankly, I actually really prefer the design of this over the Galaxy Watch 3. Not necessarily from a visual design standpoint, I still think that looks a little spiffier and looks better with a suit, but frankly, I like the physical design on my wrist a lot better with this, and I actually like the ergonomic feeling of having a Square watch. I appreciate the fact that some more content fits in a square display relative to a circular display, and even so, this still felt significantly lighter and more comfortable on my wrist. The biggest shortcoming for me is the fact that it doesn't have offline Spotify support, which is kind of a deal breaker for me, and so I'm probably going to move back to some sort of Galaxy watch. But I do appreciate the design of the Oppo Watch, and I think if you are looking for an Apple Watch equivalent for Android, I think this is a good option. But frankly, it doesn't solve the problem that I have with just about every smartwatch I've used, in that it probably doesn't offer enough new experience or different experience to warrant the price point. Now, the Oppo Watch goes for around $300, depending on what you can import it for, which frankly is the price of many low-end to mid-range Android phones. So frankly, I probably don't think it's worth that price point. But if you can get it for a significant discount, maybe in the $200 range, then I would say you should check it out. Thank you for watching NOISO. I hope you liked this review of the Oppo Watch and it helped you make a decision on whether you prefer a square or a circular watch. Let me know down in the comments whether you're Team Square or Team Circle, and be sure to get subscribed if you're not already. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.